This is TWiT.
It's such a complicated story, and neither Epic nor Apple is helping by adding all this kind of, ad hominem attacks and all of this stuff. I wish we could just kind of. I agree with you, Rene. Ben Thompson's article, "Rethinking the App Store," is a very kind of measured look at it. He quotes Francisco Tomasky, who was on the original iPhone team. He tweeted a couple of days ago. Tomasky did. Remember, Apple's iOS rules would not have allowed for the invention of the web browser. Let that sink in. They would have rejected one of the most important technical innovations in the history of computing. Microsoft's bully tactic of making IE free seems quaint in comparison. But here's the kicker. Think of all the other amazing ideas we don't know about because they haven't got a chance to be invented because they aren't allowed on mobile devices. You don't agree?
Yeah, I don't really agree with that because again, like if you go back, and he has Steve Jobs' quote in there as well, and it's an apt one, but you still can't develop on any of these devices. You're still developing on Windows for Android. You're still developing on Mac for iOS, and we've seen incredibly innovative, deeply like world-changing apps be created. The entire gig economy, the entire logistical revolution come to life on mobile devices. And good ideas on the desktop are going to filter.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to conflate the iPhone with the desktop. That's what Jobs was basically saying. He said, you don't want your phone to be like a PC. The last thing you want is to have loaded 3 apps in your phone, then you go to make a call and it doesn't work anymore. These are more like iPods than they are like
That was my
computers.
Trio, by the way.
Yeah. But by the way, they're not really phones anymore. They're the primary computing devices.
No, it's changed.
Yeah, for the vast majority of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is why this is the second reason why I think that this is an important lawsuit. I don't necessarily think that Epic is right. I don't necessarily think that it would be the best for Apple or the iOS community if any time that a developer wanted to create its own store, it was able to do so. What I do think is necessary at this time is for Apple to go to court to defend all of these policies, to really be made to held in public to say, you need to defend all of these actions. You need to prove not just to the court, but also to the court of public opinions that you haven't just simply been allowing things to slide because, hey, look, every WWDC, we get to say how many billions of dollars the App Store is generating for developers. It doesn't matter if a lot of smaller developers who don't have the ability to hire a dream team legal team, they'll simply have to deal with the fact that, oh, by the way, we pulled your entire app and we made a lot of your customers think that your app is malware without really any explanation. Well, you're going to have to address that. Apple has never been forced to explain itself, and during the process of discovery, just like we're going to learn a lot about Apple's internal policies, and Apple is not going to be able to defend a lot of the reasons why it's been doing what it's doing. Same reason why the Samsung lawsuit was, again, I think that the findings were correct in the very end, but at least as a bench warmer, as a member of the audience, and as a journalist, it was really, really cool to have Apple forced to produce documents explaining here's how we develop things and here's the arguments that we have. Sometimes it's not exactly the same thing, but during the process of discovery, Apple is going to have to not just simply go for PR, not just go for the bureaucratic responses of, well, we case closed, where you violated the rules and we have to apply the rules to everybody. I think this is ultimately going to be very, very good for Apple and for everybody.
Yes, Thompson in Stratechery points out that based on existing law and Supreme Court rulings, it's very unlikely Apple will lose in this epic battle. The company has a right to determine how they do business with third parties.
To be hyper-competitive.
Yeah, it can be hyper-competitive. It's not anti-competitive. But he does, and this, it's complicated, so I don't know if I want to go through what he proposes as new App Store rules.
Can I suggest something?
Yeah.
So I sort of am not on the same side as I think his remedy is an interesting one. People worry if there's alternate payment systems or alternate stores. Like, for example, Fortnite will no longer be on the App Store. Everyone will have to figure out which store, which app is on, have to make accounts for every service, and it destroys the simplicity.
It's kind of like the TV situation right now, the streaming TV situation, right?
But I think there's a simpler answer. I think that Apple should begrudgingly allow Gatekeeper on iOS, and I think that will solve myriad of problems because Epic will hate it because they want They want the shelf, the storefront of the App Store, but then they should pay for it. But if you give them side loading,
so
that's
Apple
notarized,
opens up side loading, but has the security features of Mac OS to protect you.
Yes.
That actually seems like a good solution. The way Android does it is not a good solution, because basically it's just a setting. You turn it on, and then anything goes. There is no security around it. So you're talking about a halfway measure that seems actually quite sensible. I mean, it works on the Mac.
And it would create one other huge benefit, and that is if China says no more VPN apps, or Trump says no more TikTok, that's fine. It gives Apple the same kind of deniability they get when they say, we don't have the data. They're like, we took it off the store, and they're like, well, people are sideloading it. We can't stop that, but we took it off the store.
You know what? I like your proposal, Rene. That's a very simple. Lory, you agree? Is a simple?
Will never find it.
It's a clean way to do it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Might be hard for Apple to implement.
This has been sort of the solution for quite a long time of just allow people to use, not just sideload, but gatekeeper, which makes everybody happy. Everyone gets what they want out of it, or at least when they start making accusations that Apple doesn't do this or that for them, Apple can say, and the antitrust is a perfect thing, Apple can say anybody can do anything they want on their phone with any app. It's just that if they do it in the App Store, here's the rules that they have to follow. So would you
do it maybe a little bit more stringently than you do on Mac OS? Because on Mac OS, there's really three choices. You say, I'm going to set it only App Store apps. I'm going to set it only signed apps, but they can be side-loaded. And then I'm going to have a third setting that says anything goes. Would you eliminate on iOS? Eliminate that third setting, so that you basically have two choices on iOS: App Store or signed apps.
I don't see why there's any reason not to allow me as the consumer to do whatever I want with the phone that I paid $1,000 for. So let me hit that switch that says anything goes, and if I break my phone, that's my fault. That's
what Apple doesn't want you to do. Yeah.
Well, it's not the breaking; it's like the advantage. Like you increase the surface area for attack, because once you do that, it gives an amount of access that makes it more difficult for everyone else to stay secure.
I should point out that while we assume that the iPhone is more secure than Android, there is increasing evidence that that is not the case. That Android is not really old Android for sure. But if you're using an up-to-date version of Android, you're probably as secure, and some argue even more secure than you would be on iOS. So you wouldn't necessarily be giving up the security of iOS to add this gatekeeper functionality.
No, it would be the same certification, same protection, and they've proven that it works on macOS.
Yeah.
But Lory, you think it should? You think I should have the ability to say it's my phone? If I want to install it from whatever, from a third-party app store, I should be able to do that.
I do think that. I think
in other words, turn on jailbreaking.
It's a consumer right kind of idea that if I if I paid $1,000 for my phone, I should be able to put whatever I want on it.
Yeah.
And I frankly think that the argument that it opens up like more issues of attack. Well, so does my Mac, but Apple didn't, put those restrictions on Mac. So if they're willing to do it on Mac, why aren't they willing to do it on iOS? I think that there isn't a really good reason, in my opinion, that Apple wouldn't allow something like Gatekeeper to exist on iOS.
And by the way, as long as you're doing this, let's put first-class support in for progressive web apps, so that there's a third way I can install stuff. I can install stuff from.
Can we agree no Electron? Like if we give you that, will you agree to no Electron?
I think if somebody wants Electron on their iPhone, they should be allowed.
Rene likes Electron about as much as I like cooked broccoli. It's like I can't even put it in my mouth. I hate it so much.
Why don't you like it? It's just heavy, right? It's heavyweight. It's too much.
So do you remember that error we had with all our Skype a while ago? That was Skype Render Helper. And the other day I had 3 of those. I had Slack Render Helper, Skype Render Helper, and Discord, I think, Render Helper. And it destroyed my, like, this is a 16-inch MacBook Pro. I can render 8K raw video with no problem. And these 3 stupid Chrome Render Helpers just brought it to its knees.
Right.
Yeah. And also there's a good argument. Okay.
Go ahead, Andy. Go ahead. Finish.
Thank you. There's also a good argument that they're not efficient, and they discourage companies from saying, well, we're going to make a Windows app that absolutely takes advantage of everything that's unique to Windows. We're going to make a Mac app that takes advantage of everything that's unique to Mac. It helps all these companies be able to create a feature complete release across all platforms on the same day of release. But yeah, I mean, if it were a choice between having the Electron app and not having it at all, I would much rather have the app. But yeah, I would much rather have a native Mac app for everything that I use.
Go ahead, Lory.
These are ways that we can then force developers to, be accountable for what they don't do well. When we start just saying, so if I have, all these Chrome helpers that are just bogging down my Mac and destroying my Mac, I'm going to start shouting from a mountaintop how much I hate Chrome and how it needs to be fixed. But by not allowing it on iPhone, let's say, not allowing these kinds of apps, we then get mad at Apple for not even letting us have it, instead of really forcing the developers to take responsibility for their shitty apps, or for their bad apps and for fixing them.
Yeah.
I kind of like because you have to make native apps.
I kind of like the idea of acknowledging the iPhone as a computing platform. It's not an appliance.
Yeah. I just really don't think it even has to go as far as that. I'm totally with Lory that if you spend $1,000 for a phone, it's your phone. And if you decide that the way to get the most value out of your phone is to make it slightly less secure, that's totally up to you.
Yeah.
So long as it doesn't do it, it doesn't do it in such a way that you can make a botnet that brings down the entire internet.
That's really acknowledging that the times have changed since Steve Jobs said that the iPhone is more an iPod than it is a general computing device. Nowadays, it is probably the primarily computing device. One of the reasons I was excited about
Xbox.
Yeah, maybe. One of the reasons I was excited about the Microsoft Duo, that book-shaped two-screen phone, is it acknowledges that this really, and they even say it's not a phone. But no phone anymore is really primarily a phone. It's a camera. It's a productivity device. It's a communicator for sure. And acknowledging that.
Someone calls you get upset.
Yeah, I don't want any phone. It's really true, actually. I hit the hang-up button fast.
Yeah, you're bothering me.
Stop bothering me.
You realize I'm trying to farm here?
I got farming to do. Let's take a little break.
This is a bigger discussion. It's like everything we get now is licensed. Windows is licensed. The DVDs we buy are licensed. The stuff we stream is licensed. The Switch we own is licensed. The stuff we've allowed a lot of technology companies to turn our world into a licensed and not owned world. And I think it's good that we start clawing that back.
Yeah.